Good afternoon. How y'all holding up out there? You're doing well? Excellent? Cool beans. Well, thank you for staying on this journey with us today. And thank you for watching me find and lose and find again my glasses. One of the things that we talk about is drug user health, substance use in the workplace. It is a challenge. It is somewhat old territory, but new territory. So we want to have some conversation during this session around drug user health in the workplace. I'm going to introduce Jhahbriel Butler-Moore. He is Vice President, Grants Corporate Sponsorship, the Butlers Kitchen. From serving within the United States Army to championing the public private sector, Jhahbriel has proven his commitment to serve. Born in Greenville, North Carolina, Jhahbriel grew up with a huge loving and a supportive family who pushed him to whatever dream he so desired as long as God was present. Jhahbriel's career began while serving in the United States Army as a pharmacy technician. This position catapulted him into healthcare industry where he successfully captured roles such as National Account Executive, Benefit Advisor, Regional Director, Program Officer, to name just a few. Serving on the board of Us Upping Us and Project Briggs, along with partnerships with health organizations such as Kaiser Permanente, Care First, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, and Magna Army Medical Center has given Jhahbriel experience and exposure that has led him to his esteemed work within the community. I'm going to let Jhahbriel explain his experience and how his experience has led to where we are today, and hopefully we will engage in a great conversation as we talk about drug user health and in the workplace. Jhahbriel?
Thank you, kid. We go back so far. So he has to read all of my bio like he didn't know who I was. Anyhow, thank you for allowing me to be here to really talk about my passion and why I think workplace drug users need to be helped. I was one of them. So here's my story. Before we even get into the presentation, I worked and traveled at 80% of my career. Most of the time, I battled my disability, my pain. I'm a disabled vet, and I took all types of Tylenol 3, all types of Valium, just to get through the day. I remember standing in front of an audience of over 2,000 people talking about health and wellness, and all of a sudden, everybody started looking like 3 or 4 people at once. And I passed out in front of the entire audience. Now, I'm an HR professional, so the first thing that my HR team did was, okay, drug test. What do you think happened after I had to drug test people? Right, I was exposed. From that situation, had I not had a strong EAP, Employee Assistance Program, I wouldn't be standing here today. And I want to take you through my presentation, and really, I want you to think about what your EAP for your organization is doing for your employees. Now, Ken, I hope I got this right, Ken. How do you, just click it? Okay. Oh, there we go. All right, first of all, my name is Jhahbriel Moore Butler. My husband would be mad as I don't know what if he saw the Butler-Moore. So, first of all, let's talk about what is an EAP program. Who knows off the top? I'm not going to read these slides to you because we all can read it here. So who can tell me right now what they think an EAP program is? Ma'am?
Employee assistance program, where employees have the option of calling in and getting referred to local professionals. Allegedly, it's supposedly qualified to help you with your problem.
That's what a good EAP system would do, a program, would actually focus on your mental, because right now we know today it's a lot of mental going on, right? What is the importance of having an EAP program? We can. Go ahead. Go ahead. This is. We're talking. We're talking.
I mean, to me, the importance of having the EAP program is to understand and know where the resources are, how they work, and how you get access to them.
Absolutely, absolutely. I know from my own work in the industry, we have reduced absenteeism. I mean, that in itself increases productivity. As you can see here, these are all the attributes of having an EAP program. Here's some stats I want to sit here for a minute, let you look at. 62% improvement was seen in the work-life management of employees. I myself believe that this is a key to a successful company, period. Is influencing a healthy work-life balance. 86% of our workforce reported having a positive impact after well-being after introducing an EAP program. 74% of employees in the United States have access. Now here's the issue though. Having access is one thing, but having access to great care, to great partnerships in the community, that's important. It's very important. Another issue I see with this piece here is the access. How do you obtain that access? For my employees at my organization, it is all about technology. If your EAP program does not have a strong technology system in place, you're suffering. Your employees are suffering. I want you to sit and look at this number. This is a serious, serious, serious number. Shocking, right? 68.9% of all drug users are employed and active. Right here. Right here. Let's keep it real. Right here. Now, what do you think out of that number are people who are actually suffering through drugs that are not even prescribed? Believe it or not, it's about half of that. Yeah, about half of that. The 11 most commonly abused drugs in the workplace. Any of this look familiar to you? Everybody's quiet. I know we had a great lunch, and I know it's in the afternoon, and we're all tired, and I get it. I am too. But this is serious, though. This is some serious conversation. Yeah, it's amazing how people don't think that alcohol is a drug. Count how many glasses of wine you have before you go to bed at night. How many glasses of wine do you have, just a drink a week? How many? One becomes two becomes three. You lose count, and then you really don't think that you have a drug problem because alcohol is not considered a drug, right? Nah, it is. It is. Oh, absolutely. I was one of them. Yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
I did have a question for you.
Sure.
Are these in order? So that the alcohol is the most?
I'm sorry?
Are they in order, or these are just
No,
the top?
they're not in order. They're not in order. They're just the top. Any stand out to you that would really, what stands out to you the most that you wouldn't even think would be?
I don't know. This might get me in trouble. I think marijuana would be the most common.
Yeah, it is, especially in the DMV. It's legal here, so it becomes abused. I can't hear her. I can't hear her. I can't hear her.
Who's hand is up? Who was talking? Who said that?
I was just saying that it's legal here, but most of the businesses that operate in the city do not see it.
They don't.
as being legal.
They don't see it like that. And what they do, they mask it behind selling materials so that it just passes. I will say this, though. I would much prefer users to go to a dispensary than in the street. I just recently lost a friend of mine who, forgive me 1 second. He used marijuana, but he decided to put fentanyl and sprinkle it on the marijuana. He bought, but actually take it back. He bought it from the street that way. So he's not here today because he's actually bought something from the street that was laced with fentanyl. And that is some serious, serious situations going on in the streets. That it ends up in the office. I see it in the office now. In corporate offices, non-profit, no matter where you work, I see it. I see it that the work has to be done both inside and outside, on the street and off the street. Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to mention alcohol. The consumption of alcohol is so, it can be deceptive because it's accepted on the job.
Yep.
It's accepted happy hour right after the job.
Happy hour.
And then you go home and so it can be very deceptive. And I know people think of it, they understand someone being quote unquote inebriated, but they don't understand the effect in the workplace and the after effect and the family effect. So it's stigmatized differently because
Right.
even if you don't do it,
Right.
it's socially accepted, so you may feel you have to do it.
And then sometimes I'll add to that. As an HR professional, it's I despise having company happy hours because to me that's a gateway to all types of situations, right? All types of HR violations. I've been there. But again, it's what you said. It is so well received that it's blanketed. It's blanketing the true issues. If I am a user, and alcohol is my conduit to get to the hard drugs. If I'm an employer, I'm actually encouraging it if I'm encouraging alcohol at happy hours. That's real fact. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the 11 most commonly abused drugs in the workplace. Out of all of this, how many organizations have in place where employees can sit down and talk about the behavior health challenges that they're having without being stigmatized, without losing their job? Where's that conversation?
You asked the question that I was going to get to next, and thank you. The stigmatism behind EAP sometimes is negative, okay? If I need to use EAP, oh, that must mean that I'm weak, or I need so much help. If people look at you negatively at your workplace, I see that. But EAP is not that. It's not that at all. And it's up to your HR professionals, your organization, to ensure that there's an EAP program that is culturally sensitive to your organization. That's imperative, because if there is drug usage and I want to get the help, there should not be anything in the way of me getting that help. And you are protected, by the way. When you go through an EAP program, you are protected. They cannot fire you. Okay? But employees have to be educated. That is one thing we have to do as HR professionals. Have these conversations with our employees that this is here for your help, to assist you through your job, your career, and maybe through your life. I'm sorry. I'll come back to you.
I just wanted to share that as much as there are systemic issues around the usage of EAP programs where employees are comfortable enough to go to HR or just connect with EAP on their own, I think that there should be a balance in a way that we just don't look at it from a systemic standpoint, but employees themselves have to make sure that they're well educated
Yes.
about the programs, but also acknowledge when you have personal challenges that begin to impact your work life and your personal life, to be able to say, it's time to be able to get the help that I need,
Absolutely.
because it's being offered. But if you don't accept it, you're not going to make full use of it. So I think sometimes we focus on the bigger issues, but we
Yes.
fail to take personal responsibility and accountability for some of the things that we have to take the steps to be able to do.
I challenge you on one thing, though. Let me challenge you on one thing. Now, I like what you said. I really do. So what if I'm mentally struggling with my addiction, right? And I work for an organization, and I'm gonna keep it real, okay? So forgive me. I'm a black man. I work for a white organization, and I'm the only black man in my role. And we know about this whole thing called black tax, right? And I experienced that even to this day. So what do you do when you have those feelings and you're afraid to go talk to HR or even to your manager, supervisor? She wants to like, get your cardio in, Kim. Come on, it's cardio in. Come on now.
I totally understand what you're saying, but I think that the exceptions to the rule should not be the norm.
Exactly.
So situations like that are exceptions, but everybody should have equal opportunity to get equal services. And whatever it takes for that employee to be helped, people should not relent to do that. But I think those are isolated situations more so. But it may be the case that in certain places it may not be isolated cases for certain population, and I get that. But I think that coming from my back, where I come from,
Okay, and what
what I've also seen is that a lot of employees are scared
Yes.
to come forward to say, I am going to utilize this even when it's offered to them, because they think it's going to be used negatively to impact their employment. And people should be reassured that that's not the case. But what does it really take to do that?
Well, it takes a lot of conversation. It takes a company to be influential with their EAP program and be sensitive to your culture. Every organization has a very different culture. I mean, I can tell you. And when that organization invests in their employees in a manner that makes them feel comfortable, makes them feel where we're all equal, regardless of what I'm going through in my life, that's where success comes in. That's where growth comes in. That's where productivity comes in. But
Jhahbriel,
go ahead.
I was wondering, though, to her point, I sort of equate HR to the medical profession, no disrespect. There's power. There's power in HR. HR is a two-way street. It's either the way you come in or the way you go out.
Right.
And that middle part is not that relationship that is built.
Right.
And so most folks, when they get in, are concerned about the way out, and there's power involved. There is no power dynamics coming in, because thank you, I did this myself.
Right.
And so I'm wondering if we could sort of speak to that power dynamic. And to your point, how do we get individuals to sort of like push down or push back on a power dynamic?
Believe it or not, and this is going to sound real messed up, but it is HR's responsibility. It is HR's responsibility to create that atmosphere within any organization. It is HR's responsibility. Though we are representatives of our organization, we also represent our employees. There's a healthy balance that has to happen in order for us just to get in a better space. Yes, sir.
Things like, for example, when I worked in the private sector at one time, I didn't trust HR because they protected the private sector. And HR would sometimes work with the company to get rid of it.
This is true.
It caused anxiety. So if you had issues with your supervisor, you couldn't talk to HR because they'd be talking to your supervisor, plotting to get rid of you. So it's like you didn't know who to talk to. And so that compounded your mental health.
Yes.
And so
These are the things we deal with in the
and
office.
it's just protection, because I'm thinking, I understand that HR is to protect the organization from being sued or whatever like that, but it's just no healthy balance.
And unfortunately, that depends on where you work, and unfortunately. You know, I pride myself, because of my passion for the community and for people, period, is that everyone is equal and fair.
And so, real quick, I just want to ask you, the reason I'm running around like I'm crazy and can't breathe is because we're recording. And so we want to get everybody's voice in. So if you raise your hand, I promise I'll get to you. But we want to hear all these rich conversations.
Good afternoon. I had a question.
Sure.
About EAP period. So at my agency, I know that it exists. I haven't been there that long.
Okay.
So you may get to it, but does EAP fall under HR, or should it be someone else's responsibility? Is it the same person that's also EEO, or like how does all that work?
Okay.
Because what if your HR and your QI kind of suck? How would you, all of that stuff that's on the previous slide about retention and satisfaction, like how does all that work together?
So, you know, I actually have going through an RFP, which is a request for proposal for a new EAP program to be into my organization, because I see the utilization is so low, which means that my EAP provider is not reaching out and making those connections. Your first question, EAP should always fall under the benefits person. Always. The benefits person. Yeah, the person who handles the benefits, your employee benefits, who handles your health and wellness, that should fall under that person. It makes a lot of sense to tell you why. I'm a benefits person. I'm a benefits manager, director, all of that. When I see benefits come in and claims and everything that falls under the benefit world, I'm also looking at EAP. How is that being used? If I have employees today that are struggling with mental health, well, I can look and see if it's being used. Okay? I get a report every month. And your employer should be doing the same exact thing. And again, every organization has a culture that you have to weave through. Yes, got one over here. Then we're going to move to the next slide.
So you said, as the benefits person, you're looking at the claims and things that come through. So
Yes,
how
ma'am.
does that flow with confidentiality?
Well, it's only myself, so we have HIPAA and all that. So no, we don't expose that. That's for my own reporting. I love all the questions. Y'all make me feel so good. Yes, the questions. Love it.
So there are some agencies that require like many different things, like different drug tests, and they do random drug tests, right? So if someone were to test positive, they're immediately dismissed or fired from their position. So how does EAP help with that? If I, know that I'm going to be fired after I'm randomly selected to go be drug tested, do I go to EAP, or technically, does HR work for me or work for the company? Like, how does that work, and how do you go about that?
First of all, another great question that was going to come up later on in the slides. I won't have to go through these slides. You're asking the right questions. So, here is where I challenge HR and EAP provider, because at the end of the day, it is the EAP who helps craft those policies for drugs in the workplace. So I don't think I've seen here in the last 5-10 years where if a person tests positive that they're fired. Generally, they have to go through EAP. Generally, they send them through EAP. And I would love to be that employer who decided to do that, because that's a lawsuit. That's a lawsuit. Yes.
Hi. So first, I guess it's a statement. Please read your employee handbook.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, that gets,
To take it.
before you even get started, to see if you want to even
To work
fix
there.
your little, red rag into that job. That's the first thing. But when you work in behavioral health, I'm going to tell you what PG County is doing now, and I think it is phenomenal, and it
Okay.
should be across the nation. Based on COVID and the reintegration of their employees, once a month, you have to take a self-help day. And it's mandatory, you're paid for it, where you go to see a counselor, whether you utilize it or not. Yeah, and it's in PG County, I'm telling you, whether you're contract or full-time. And I'm telling you, 40% of their employees are full-time, everybody else is contract right now in PG
Right,
County.
right.
It's phenomenal. I do agree with you, it's, we have to know our own internal clock.
Yes.
When you're
yes.
off, we have to sleep, we have to eat, some basic fundamentals. But in addressing the whole, if I'm fired for the substance use, there's no real marijuana policy written throughout the United States.
Nowhere.
But if you receive federal funds, Medicaid, I get Medicaid,
Right there.
Medicaid dictates how they view marijuana usage. So it's not your employer sometimes. Sometimes it's who is actually paying your salary. So don't, be so aggressive to the place you work. Also know how you're paid. If this is not a private industry with individual funds, if Medicaid, the federal government is saying if you are able to then complete your job. So please know all of those things. So
And generally, they're not really looking for marijuana, no way. No, they look for something else.
Do you want to take?
I do one more, then we got to go to the next
We
slide.
have 2 questions. We have 10 minutes, and I can't wait to see the rest of this presentation.
Really briefly, so it's my understanding that the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, protects against being fired for having a substance use disorder, assuming that you are you disclose that you have the substance use disorder and you engage in some sort of treatment.
That's the problem.
If someone shows up intoxicated to the workplace, they could potentially be fired for that.
Right.
But not for just having a positive urine drug screen if it didn't actually cause an incident in the workplace.
Exactly. And great, thank you for pointing that out too, because that is a good point to make.
Thank you.
Is there a difference, and I'm going to go to Blythe, and this
Sure.
is there a difference between testing positive and doing it on the job?
Yes.
Don't keep that beer in your desk drawer.
Yeah. Thank you. Sure.
I want to hear the rest of your presentation too, but I'd like to just drop 2 things to put a pin for
Sure.
people to think of. First of all, if you're a nonprofit organization accepting money from the federal government, your boss has to sign a drug-free workplace policy, and there may be some considerations that are impacted by that for your employment. That's one. And the second thing is, at Marshall Heights, we do a great deal of work with returning citizens, especially, and low-income folks from our neighborhood who are substance users. The biggest problem that we have is getting them to prepare to take drug screenings just to get a job. So as Ambrose was saying before about the importance of getting people out of poverty, there's a significant connection here. I don't think we have enough time, but we shouldn't forget the fact that even though marijuana is decriminalized in the district, it doesn't mean that those folks can get a job.
Oh, absolutely. But I want to circle back on something you just said. I'm all for poverty. That's what the community is about. But we have people who make a lot of money that are still strung out on drugs. So I'm speaking about that we're focused on everybody, but there is people who, like myself, who make 6 figures that are in these offices drugged out, making decisions for you as an employee, for you and your family at that. So there is a need all around when it comes to drugs usage. Inside, I call it inside, outside, street, corporate. It's got to be attacked somewhere or another. And the people who have the money, they can make a change. Okay, next slide. Thank you, though. Now, here's where I challenge everyone in this room. If you have an EAP provider, challenge them. Make sure that your provider is sensitive and culturally competent. If I have another person call one of my employees who goes by they, he, it's going to be a problem. Because in my organization, we take that seriously. Second thing, incorporate drug testing, educational programs designed to fit your company culture. And I only say that because I know that in certain areas, certain cities, it's not that important. However, if you know that you're seeing an uptick in your EAPs, put programs in there. You know, partner with community advocates to get your people safe. Your EAP provider should have a strong connection to local rehab and treatment centers aligned with the organization's cultural mission. All these guys who are up here today, I sat back and I said, I wonder how many corporate companies are attached to these brothers and people. They're not. Has to happen. We have to have that connection. Have to. Review your current drug abuse policies. I like what you said. You better read before you say, I'm going to work there. You better read it. Because there are certain cases that you will get fired. If it's in their policy, it will happen. Here are the top 10 employees, the best that I know. These are my top 10, okay? You see Nova's on here. Everybody does a Nova, right? Great EAP program. One of the best. They connect with their company, their organizations. They connect with their employees. They have the best, as far as I'm concerned, technology-wise. The platform is rich, and they have a bunch of programs that are very hands-on. LifeWorks as well. LifeWorks is more ground-based, and they like to bring their people on site, which is kind of cool. So, guys, any questions? You had a lot. Yes, sir.
So there's a question, and I'm going to put something out here. This is over in about 7 minutes. I do want us to ponder on this. What we have not talked about is the impact of substance use, alcohol, in a COVID environment, being at home.
Oh, I have a storyline about that one. So, we all at home. We have our meetings now on these Teams meetings and Zooms and all this. Well, I'm behind my screen and, my employees are popping on one at a time. And one of my employees forgot that the camera was on. Had a whole full bottle of Tanqueray and orange juice. And I'm just sitting there like, okay. I said, you're right. I said, sir, you might want to put that down. When he tells me, I'm at home. I'm at home, and you can't tell me what I can't do, what I can't drink, or what in my own home. Believe it or not, we have to put a policy together on what to wear, what you can't. I mean, I'm blown away because I'm like, we're adults, we're grown, right? We wouldn't get behind and go to work and have a meeting and drink at a meeting, right? But this is the things that happen because of the pandemic. People are comfortable, they're home, they're in their pajamas. I was one of them. I had the pajamas on the bottom, I had tie on top. You just didn't know. And I may have had like a little wine over here, but you didn't know. But I'm saying, that is an issue. However, companies are now putting policies in place about what it looks like to work from home. You're signing agreements now. How many people sign agreements? I know I have. I signed so many agreements now for telework agreements. I'm sick of looking at them. And now with the change of time, we're taking them back because we're coming back in the office now. So again, yes, great question. We're home, the pandemic. I had to get out the house. I was so glad I got the house, y'all. I wanted to fire him. I wanted to kill my husband, the dog, everybody. That's when we got the house. It just, I don't like being home. I'm not a telework guy. I like people. I like to talk to everybody. But Ken, I enjoyed this. There's not, more questions? Oh, yeah, come on, baby. Yeah.
I have a question. So I don't know which one of the ladies said that, but so what is the difference in being, I guess, penalized when you come to work actually intoxicated, or when you had to take a random drug test and you tested positive? Because in my eyes, if you bold to come to work intoxicated, wouldn't that be some level of a sign of addiction?
Well, yeah.
So, like, how could, like, you know what I mean? Like, because...
Are you trying to ask, like, what's the difference between coming into work drunk or high versus failing a test?
Yes, like, what is the difference?
Well,
because it's still, like...
Feels the same to you?
Right. Because if you come to work, like, that's really bold to come to work, knowing that, you know, like, there are going to be certain consequences, especially when you're drinking, you smell alcohol on you, like, you know, because I used to, like, you know, when people go to NAMEs, they talk about being at work and going on for lunch and getting a drink. So, like, that's very, like, it's a level of addiction when you know you coming to work, opposed to just randomly getting drug tested and just got caught, opposed to coming to work like that. Like, so what is the difference?
So here's the difference. So I'll take myself, for example. Big story, I was talking to everybody like I am now, and I passed out. I had been taking pain meds because I was in pain. I didn't think I was addicted. They gave me a drug test. I didn't get fired. They sent me to a program. But if I come into work drunk, if I walk through the door, you know you drunk. That's kind of, and you're in a drug-free workplace. You know you coming in there like that. That's a different ball game. Different ball game. Don't you agree? Different ball game.
So if you reach out to your EAP program and it's not culturally sensitive, or you feel like they did not meet the needs, as an employee, what would be my next step?
HR. That would be HR, please. And I tell all my employees, because I do a survey. I do a survey twice a year. Give me feedback on what you think your provider is doing for you and what not doing for you. It's my job to ensure that my employees are getting the best of what they should get, period.
I want to thank you. I want to thank you all for your question. Her question is getting to me. This whole coming to work drunk versus...
Well, how many have you done it?
But I think it feels like there's a little classism bias in that, you know, that the person can tip on through as long as they don't take a test. But the person who comes in, we usher them out the door. I believe, though, the process should still be the same if you come to work, whatever. I can't talk anymore. I do think what happens is you still should usher through your EAP system, not that you're fired.
Well, say it again, what is that company's policy?
Right.
So
Right?
when a person tests positive, it's not indicative when they used. You may have used the marijuana 45 days ago, 60 days ago. The alcohol can stay in your system if we're not smelling it, things of that nature. So we can't indicatively say you used an hour ago prior to coming here. That's just how it's written. But if you come under the influence, that means that you are decapacitated. You cannot perform the function that we are paying you to do, and you put other people in jeopardy as well. We don't want to go out to it. Just as a caveat, we no longer have the happy hour. We do the meet and greet. We don't have the alcohol because legally, you can also be sued if you had gone to the bar. And that happened to one of our collaborators, and that's all it took for us. So it's a matter of us being able to prove when you consume the substance.
Right.
I do agree, you know, even if a person is fired, you should offer them some type of assistance, but they don't have to. And please remember, DC and Maryland are, what are those two words?
At will.
We can say bye and not tell you why.
Yes, at will.
So this session is just about over. I'm going to give this gentleman over here the last word. It's going to be brief, but it's going to be amazing. So go ahead.
Okay, I'm sure.
So we have those that engage in substance use, but are also fully functional
Exactly.
at work, and you might not even be able to tell. But my question is kind of a gray area. So we know that things have changed in our communities based on the marijuana laws.
Right.
And so a person can come to work smelling like they have smoked a bomb.
A whole, yeah.
But they didn't. They were just around someone who did.
Yes.
How is that person treated?
Well, it depends on where you work. I mean, that's all I can say. Because, you know, if I'm at Metro, you know what's going to happen, right? Right? But if I'm a nonprofit, probably nothing. Because you got to prove that person did that. I could have walked through a puff of smoke and from the subway. That doesn't give you a right to assume I smoke weed. So then we're on assumptions. And then we get lawsuits with those assumptions. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Jhahbriel,
thank you.
Butler-Moore. Raise your hand if you learned something. Give Jhahbriel a high five if you learned something. Thank you. We have approximately our final closing session should be happening at 1:45, so you have a couple of minutes. Sessions have been running a little over, but please take a moment. There's some sodas out there, and we'll see you back at 1:45 to wrap up the day. Thank you.